Hello there, I'm Jeanette Lane for Love Card Making, and today I'm going to share how to use the So Crafty embossing folder dies and stamp set included in Love Card Making to make this card with just a little bit of realistic texture. I love how easy it is to add a little bit of realistic texture to my paper crafts. And so what I did here is just added a little bit of felt and twine, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But you can apply these techniques to any card. Again, it's really easy to add just a touch of realistic texture. I feel like it gives your paper craft projects a little bit more interest. I'm going to do all of my die cutting first, just because I feel like that's the easiest thing to start off with. And I'm going to be using my Sizzix fold away for all of my die cutting. So I'm going to grab this little die here and I'm going to cut some pieces of felt. And I have gray felt and like a blue, like a navy blue kind of felt, and I'm gonna die cut this. Now, I don't recommend that you die cut felt with your wafer thin dies. They're meant to cut paper, but you can sometimes get away, depending on your felt, you can get away with die cutting it with some wafer thin dies. So just run it through your machine a few times if it's not cutting, or try wool felt. Now that I've die cut the felt that I'm going to use on my card, I want to die cut this little spool here. And so I'm going to be using white cardstock and the little spoolie die. I hope it's called a spool, a thread spool. I'm not too familiar with soft craft sewing terms because I'm not very good at sewing or soft crafts. I stick to paper crafts. So I'm die cutting this 3 times to add my thread in just a bit. Next up, I'm going to die cut these button shapes. So it's a little heart, and then actually there's 3 button shapes, like a larger stitched button and then a heart shaped button and then a little bitty button on the bottom. So I'm going to take my heart shaped button and the larger round button. And I'm going to die cut these a few times from craft colored cardstock. And the reason I'm doing it a few times is because I'm going to layer the die cuts on top of each other and just give them some dimension. And when you look at them from far away, they look like those wooden buttons, like realistic wooden buttons. If you ever want to add realistic texture to your paper craft projects, a great way to do that is just to layer your die cuts. And that's what I'm doing with these buttons. I'm just layering them on top of each other, gluing them together once I'm all done. And it's going to give them that realistic effect. And literally from far away, these look like wooden buttons. I contemplated adding a real needle to my card, but I thought that would be a little dangerous. But thankfully in the So Crafty gift set, there is a little needle die, and I'm just gonna die cut that from silver foil paper, and that's gonna give me a realistic texture, realistic effect to my card. That's safe. Next up, I'm going to emboss a piece of green cardstock with this stitched pattern embossing folder, which is really cute. So I'm just going to pop that cardstock inside and then run it through my machine on the right platform. You always want to make sure, check your machine, check your user manual to make sure that you're embossing on the right platform. The cardstock that I used has a white underlayer, so a white layer underneath the green color. And I got this really cool stitched effect. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it looks like I stitched it with white thread, which would also be a great way to add even more realistic texture to your card. But if you don't have this type of paper, you can always do actual stitching with needle and thread, or you can use a white core cardstock, or if you check the back of your cardstock and it's white, you can get this cool little stitch, like white stitched effect. So I've gone ahead and trimmed down my embossed cardstock and just mounted it to a side fold card base. And now it's almost time to start arranging my different little elements on my card and gluing them down. But I need to emboss my sentiment and also assemble these little buttons together, and also add the twine to my little thread spools. But before I do that, I wanted to definitely emboss my sentiment. Now I'm just going to emboss my sentiment in silver on this piece of scrap vellum that I found in my stash. And for my embossing ink, I'm using the Nuvo Clear Mark embossing pad. Here is my silver embossed sentiment all ready to be glued down to my card. So I've assembled my buttons, so I just layered the die cuts for the buttons to make them look like wood buttons. And the last thing that I'm gonna do before I glue everything down is to wrap my little spools with actual twine. So I have these 3 colors of twine, which I think pair well with the whole color scheme. And now I'm just gonna actually trim this excess on the die cut because we don't need that part. To wrap my twine around my spool, I'm gonna take a piece of washi tape. And you're not gonna be able to see this because it's gonna be on the back of my spool. And I'm going to, let me just trim that down. You need it to be sort of thin because you want it to not, you don't wanna be able to see it from the front. And then you're gonna grab a piece of twine, the end of the twine there, and make sure that's nice and secure with the washi tape. And then you're gonna flip this over and just start wrapping your spool in twine. Once you're happy with the amount of twine on your spool, you want to flip it over to the back and take the end of the twine and just kind of thread it so it doesn't unravel. And we're going to secure this with glue in just a bit. So I'm just threading it once through and I'm going to trim off the excess. And I wrapped my twine around my spools of thread earlier just to save time on this video so I can save these die cuts for later for a different project. And now it's just time to arrange everything on my card and glue it together. And the last touch on my card is to thread my little metallic needle, my metallic looking needle, into my spool of twine, and I am done with my card. I'm Jeanette Lane for Love Card Making, and I hope that you have as much fun using the So Crafty gift as I did. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!